Welcome to our West Coast Conference Fall Sports Preview Week. Today we are talking men's cross country. I've got BYU Spencer Gardner here and Gonzaga's Robert Walgren. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Good to be here. Thanks.
All right, let's look individually at each of your programs to start. Spencer, tell us a little bit about BYU. What is your team going to look like this season?
BYU has depth. We have it every year, I think, and especially because of the missionaries going in and coming out. Every year we have people leaving, people coming, and we lost three of our top guys last year. We lost Jason Witt and Tyler Thatcher and Jared Ward, national caliber people. But this year we have lots of guys returning from missions, really strong and fit right now. And we have three guys that raced at nationals last year that will be racing again this year as well. So we have lots of depth coming back and we're ready to roll.
All right, and Robert, tell us a little bit about Gonzaga.
Gonzaga, we've been on up and coming for the past couple of years now, and this year is really a year that we think that we can all put it all together and be ready to compete at the big show, up with BYU and up with Portland. We lose our top guy from last year, an all-WCC runner in Willie Milam, but we bring everyone else back, and we got a couple guys coming back from redshirting, and we have a good freshman class coming in. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do this year.
Thanks, Robert. All right, let's talk a little bit about BYU specifically now, Spencer. Last year, winning the WCC championship, placing fourth at the NCAAs. What's the mindset for your team coming into this season, kind of building off of last?
I think we proved to ourselves last year that we could run consistently at a high level. And with the WCC championships against Portland, they're extremely talented, an extremely deep team, great coaching. And the fact that we were able to pull through and get a convincing win over a team like that was helping us into nationals. And I think that this year we're taking the same mindset, we're taking the same brand of BYU running that we've always had in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and we're going to try to recreate that with the depth that we have.
And tell us about that experience you guys had at NCAAs last year. Finished fourth, got a chance to be up on the podium at the end of the race. What was that like for you guys?
Well, the weather was crazy. It was crazy cold. It was like ice sheets for the first couple K. And to be honest, before the race, I think lots of teams were wondering what was going to happen because there were so many different variables that we weren't used to. I remember we came through 5K out of the 10K, and we were in second place, and we were feeling really good about ourselves. But then things started to kind of hurt, and I think our team was having some issues later on. And so we finished the race. I think lots of the other teams that finished, we felt like, wow, what just happened? We had guys that were everywhere, and it's very unexpected to have people that, like Jason Witt, for example, that he's usually right out there. He was a little ways back. But so we were thinking, 5 minutes after the race, like, my goodness, hopefully we get, top 10 or, top 12 or something like that. But we had, a sense of elation after we heard that we were fourth. And so I think, the variables were there for everybody at nationals with the cold and with the team situation the way it was. And so we were very, very happy with the finish that we had. We had higher goals, especially with Jared Ward coming back and being reinstated into the NCAA. But we were very happy to sit on that podium again.
Now, both of you guys do have to deal with a little bit of the elements where you're racing. Spencer, when you do have a race like you just were describing, is it mostly mental at that point when it gets to the point where the weather's just completely out of control?
I'd say it's both. It's mental to get through it as far as keeping on going, but it's certainly physical as far as trying to keep yourself warm and trying to keep a good stride going. I think the training does certainly help. If you're training in rain and other cold conditions as well before nationals, it definitely helps you to kind of have the mindset and have honestly the fitness, especially in the more soft ground, to be able to stride through and keep a good pace going. Sometimes when it gets cold and when it gets wet and damp like that, it's really difficult to keep going at a good pace, right? And to keep a nice bouncy stride. But yeah, so it's definitely a combination. Definitely a combination.
And you guys have a couple of meets in Utah to start your season before you get into some of the bigger Midwest races this year. What's going to be kind of the goal in those Utah close-to-home races?
It's important for us to set a tempo, and every year we like to have sort of a gauge, especially in the Autumn Classic, our second race in Utah. It's at home. We really like to set a goal during camp, which we have next week, for the rest of the year at nationals. But the first couple of races help us to get a sort of a temperature gauge for where we're looking to improve and who we can look to bring up into the top 7. And so we use those meets a lot to gauge our future goals. We like to take our goals at a meet at a time and build up towards nationals.
And I want to talk about your coach a little bit, Ed Eyestone. He's a legend at BYU, a legend in the West Coast Conference, named to the Hall of Honor last year. Tell us a little bit about your coach and what makes him so special.
Coach Eyestone's a rock. The fact that he competed at the level he did for as long as he has given, I think, all of the people that have run under him a lot of confidence in his coaching ability. So, on paper, he has all of the statistics, right, that you like to have in a coach. But also, just as a guy, just as a the guy you interface with every day, he has a savvy and he has a style that makes you want to be around him. It makes you want to improve. He's not very heavy-handed with his training either. He lets people have lots of autonomy with the training. And so in general, he just creates a culture on the team of excellence year in and year out. And now that he's the director of track and field and cross country, the whole program, men and women, he's infusing a lot of that culture into the entire program, and it's really cool to see.
Thanks, Spencer. Robert, let's talk a little bit about Gonzaga. We'll get back to BYU towards the end of our discussion, but first of all, Gonzaga, you guys finished 11th at regionals last year. That was a program best for you guys. How do you build off of that last year and bring that into this year?
We've just doing the same thing. We've had the same coach now for the past 5 years. We're an up-and-coming team. Like I said, we bring a lot of guys back, and we view ourselves as a top 10 team. We view ourselves as a team that can compete with the Portlands, the BYUs of the nation, and we don't see any reason why we can't compete, because it starts with belief. It starts inside, and if we don't believe, then what are we doing there?
You've got a pretty tough schedule this year. I know your coach really wants you to prepare for the WCCs, for regionals, possibly for nationals. What do you think this tough schedule can do for you guys to really prepare you for those bigger meets later in the year?
Yeah, just like you said, it's all about callousing ourselves for the big meet. In years past, we've gone to a lot of smaller meets, and we get to regionals, and we get kind of overwhelmed by the number of runners, the quality of runners. And this year, we're going to Notre Dame, and that's going to be our big meet where it's kind of a dress rehearsal for regionals, where we get to get all the jitters out, get used to running with a lot of people, a lot of fast people, and hopefully perform on the day that we need to.
What do you expect from that Notre Dame race? I know that's kind of a big deal for your program, getting to go there. What do you kind of expect out of that meet? What do you want to accomplish during that race?
We'd like to knock off as many national caliber teams as possible and give ourselves a chance at an at-large bid for nationals after regionals. So that's the goal there, just to go there and compete and beat as many big teams as possible and be the giant killers that we think we are.
Fantastic. Now, some of the earlier meets in the season, how important is it to do well in those meets, and how will you kind of gauge progress with your team from those earlier meets?
Good question. Well, probably, early in the season, it's all about just kind of sorting the team out and figuring out, who's going to be the top 7 that go to regionals, who are going to be the top 9 that go to conference. And so those earlier meets for the older guys, they're just there to, shake the rust off the legs, work on running as a team. But then for some of the younger guys who are trying to prove themselves, it's all about, proving they belong in the top 7, in the top 9, and then they can run with the older guys so they can come help the team when it comes time for WCC and regionals.
And your season this year, the meets leading up to WCCs, is paced out pretty nicely. It works out so that there's about 2 weeks in between every meet that you've got. How nice is that? What will those training kind of programs look like in between those meets? And how nice is it to kind of have that consistency? It's
going to be really nice. In years past, we've had a couple, 3 meets back to back, and this year it'll be really nice to have the mental break, racing every weekend, but also the physical break. We'll surely do a hard workout the Saturday between, and those are great for confidence builders since we can all work together and push each other, since there's not as much pressure to finish well, finish strong, where we can concentrate on running as a team and helping the younger guys out.
Now, when you say hard workout for someone who only runs recreationally, what is a hard workout for you guys?
One of the ones we like to do is we call it the 1200 drill, and we'll run a 1200 the first lap at 80 seconds, so it's 520 pace. The second lap is 70 seconds, which is 440 pace. The last lap at 60 seconds, so 4 flat pace, and then we'll go out for a 67-mile tempo around between 5 flat and 520 pace, and come back and do the same thing, 80, 70, 60 again. So that's a good one we like to do as a confidence builder before bigger meets.
Sounds like a good workout. Let's talk a little bit about both your programs once again, BYU and Spencer. I just want to ask you one question. It's kind of a fun one, but what's the one meet perhaps you're most looking forward to this season?
Conference. Of course, nationals is the kind of pinnacle of distance running. That's just where you train for every year. That's a given. But every year, especially the last 3 years, as we've come into the WCC and had competition with Portland, we all look forward to having a really competitive race with them. And it's a great gauge for nationals. It's a great thing for just BYU in general. And it's great to have sort of a one-on-one team sort of feel, in the midst of so many other meets with so many other teams, and to have sort of a more battle between two teams. So we like conference a lot.
For you this season, do you set a personal goal for yourself, and maybe not a time per se, but just what would your personal goal for this season be?
As far as placements go, I think that has to be seen for me. I think that as a team, we like to set personal goals based off of how our team is looking, and we like to set personal goals that will help our team to achieve what we need to achieve. For example, at conference and the nationals. And so if that means me being the top guy, or the third guy, or the second guy, whatever, as long as we have people that we feel comfortable running with and that we love to train with, then we feel like we come out of the races happy. So that's how I set personal goals. And before the race, you of course know who on the team or who you're against. You know who's close to you, right? So you try to stick with those guys and then push it to the extra level.
Would you say there's a goal for the team this year, if you were to set one for the team yourself? Something that maybe you look back on the season and say, yes, that was a very successful season for us. What would that be?
I think performing well these two Midwest meets, like you were talking about, is going to be crucial, right, to get large points and to be able to come into nationals feeling confident. Then the next goal, we have the goal of winning conference every year. That's just going to be there, and it won't stop. Like I said, we have great competition with Portland. We really respect them and their team. But we really look forward to winning conference. That's a big goal. And as far as at nationals, I think a podium finish is something that if you can get, you're happy. And so I think that a podium finish will be a great goal to set, and will probably change, as the year goes on. We'll see and adjust. But right now, it's a great place for us, I think, to shoot for.
Thanks so much, Spencer. Robert, for Gonzaga and for your team, what would you say is maybe one goal you'd set for your team that, looking back, you would say this is a very successful year for your team?
This year, we'd love to be about top 10 of the region. If we think that on a good day that's completely attainable for us. And so if we get, if everyone runs their best and we get 10th, I think we'll be happy. But that being said, I do think if everyone runs their best, we'll be a lot better than 10th. So hopefully, top 7, top 8 in the region.
I like to hear it. What about one meet you're particularly looking forward to this year?
I'm really looking forward to our dual meet with Navy. It'll be here in Spokane, I think in 3 or 4 weeks, and it'll be awesome just to have the whole Spokane community out here to get to watch us in a high-caliber meet with those guys, and just 12 of our guys, 12 of their guys, and it should be a good day.
Finally, do you have a personal goal for yourself?
Yeah, I'd just like to help my team any way possible, to help us get to conference or get to nationals, be top 7 or regionals, and for, like Spencer was saying, kind of play it by ear, whatever the team needs me to do, whether that be the top guy and try to be, top 15, top 20 at regionals, or hopefully we'll have other guys up there, so we'll have plenty of guys there, but just be a good team guy.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for joining me today, Spencer, Robert. It's been a great chat, and we're looking forward to a great men's cross-country season this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.